Good evening, everybody, and welcome to your Rangers review. A bit of an evening briefing for you tonight as we dissect Rangers' latest annual accounts, which were revealed a short while ago. And to discuss and go through it with me, I'm joined by Chris Jack. How's it going, Chris?
Edging towards another long and interesting day in the world of Rangers. We were meant to be sitting here chatting about the press conference and the trip to Aberdeen and what the manager was saying earlier on. But I think it's safe to say there's bigger issues at play when the financials come out. So now hopefully we can break it down a wee bit over the next few minutes and give people a bit of insight into some of the key numbers and where Rangers are off the pitch before we turn all attentions back on it heading up to Pittodrie tomorrow night.
Yeah, first of all, apologies for slightly late, folks. I'm in a hotel in deepest, darkest Stevenage, so I had to sort out Wi-Fi issues down here. But fingers crossed, it holds up for the duration of this video. So the headline news from those financial results, Rangers have reported a £17.2 million loss. Group revenue has increased to a record £88.3 million and a record total income of £94.2 million. On the transfers front, pre-player trading loss has been reduced to £2 million, which is down from £10.5 million in the 2022-23 year. Now, John Gilligan has been speaking. A statement on the club's website reads, "Undoubtedly, it's been a challenging period for the football club, with significant change occurring both on and off the park throughout both season 22-23-24. 2023-24 and over the summer months. As part of these changes, John Bennett stepped away from his role as chairman in order to focus on his health. John remains a supportive shareholder and investor in the club. I'd like to place on record my thanks for his leadership, both as chairman and a director over the past 9 years. We look forward to welcoming you back to Ibrox." He continued, I'll read you what he had to say here. We've had a number of changes in senior leadership positions, with the CEO, James Bisgrove, departing to join Al Qadsiya in the Saudi Premier League, and Craig Robertson recently departing as our Director of Football Operations. We wish both James and Craig all the best in their future careers and thank them for their efforts with the football club. Chrissy just told me that the Wi-Fi is dreadful, so let us know in the comments, folks. Are you hearing me loud and clear, or are you not? See, Chris just dropped out there. We'll try and bring him back in. There we go, Chris. I assume it's my Wi-Fi that is the issue here, but we'll crack on.
You cut out about two words into John Gilligan's statement for me there, so I'm hoping it's you rather than me, but I've got the usual setup. So if it's my end, then I apologise, but we'll soldier on.
Yep, here Ian says, hearing you fine, Derek. Absolutely. So we'll crack on then. Gilligan said, whilst we continue our search for the outstanding candidate for the CEO position, we retain a strong executive team within the football club, led by our Chief Financial Officer, James Taylor, Chief Commercial Officer, Karim Varani, and our Director of Football Recruitment, Niels Coppin. All three were recruited in the period under review. And as you can see from our underlying performance, there have been significant steps made in a short period of time in delivering against our strategic objectives. The challenges encountered with the redevelopment of the Copeland Road stand have been well documented. And as a board, we once again apologise to our supporters for the inconvenience caused by the delays in returning to our home. The support received at Hampden was outstanding and epitomises the link with our great club has with our supporters. I'd also like to once again place on record my thanks to the SFA, SPFL and UEFA for their understanding and support through this period. With the Copeland Road stand now complete, we're extremely proud of the work undertaken to upgrade and improve the facilities for our disabled supporters. They truly are now some of the best facilities in Europe and are evidence of the board's commitment to continue to modernise and improve Ibrox and the wider campus. Chris, your thoughts on that? As we touched on at the top of the show, £17.2 million loss doesn't make for great reading. I know the club have reported record revenues, but that is a significant loss, isn't it?
it's round about the kind of figures that I think a lot of people were perhaps expecting. I should remember a couple of conversations when the accounts came out this time last year. I remember a couple of conversations with some press guys thinking that was this year, but what is next season going to look like? How bad is next year going to be? And it's round about that level. I think it highlights the importance of each of the key pillars, as Rangers figures call them. It highlights player trading, it highlights European football, it highlights success on the pitch. But you don't have those things, those failures, if you like, are always going to be borne out in terms of the bottom line and in terms of the financials. So no, they don't make for great reading at all. And I know it's only been out for a couple of hours or so. You see the reaction from the fans, see the comments on the show. It's not going to win over a lot of Rangers fans. We've already seen a couple of protests, obviously banners unfurled at the Kilmarnock game and at the St Mirren game at the weekend. What happens on the pitch will always determine the mood of the fans. But what happens off it, certainly at a club like Rangers, having been through what the club has been through over the last 10, 20 years or so, the way that the club is being run, fans take an interest in it. They should take an interest in it, and they are right to take an interest in it. And I think they'll be looking at these numbers really closely. And I know a number of them will be concerned about where Rangers are and where they're heading.
Yep. Rangers Chief Financial Officer James Taylor also commented. He said, "This year I am pleased to announce that we've delivered record revenue of over £88 million into the football club, and taken together with one of recurring items, we have actually delivered over £93 million of revenue on the £17.2 million loss." He says that's a good question. And again, I think the thing to highlight here is there was a £17 million bottom line post-tax loss this year, and that number, whilst again is something that we should acknowledge and observe, is something that we recognise and understand how we're going to move forward and fix. And again, a lot of that loss is coming down to the impact of the player trading model in this year, taking impairments of players from the recent past that we've moved on in the summer, and speaking about the need for that player trading model to improve. He says, now we need to look at how we're going to develop players, how we're going to enhance our value, how we're going to make them successful, not only in the here and now, but also over the next 2 to 3 years, so we can start creating a virtuous cycle of making sure that we develop players, selling them at a higher value, and ultimately lead to a gain through the accounts. You'll see through the accounts, which can actually deliver us more investment and continue that virtuous cycle, as I mentioned. So mentioning the player trading model there, Chris, we've discussed it at length on various shows. Rangers need to get better at recruitment. There's no two ways about it.
They do, but it's one factor of the football club. It's obviously an important one, and it's a revenue stream that can have such a big impact on these accounts. But I think a lot of the accounts tell you there's a lot of issues all across the board here. I know in that 17 million figure there is the one-offs. Certainly the Eddie Elite case as a one-off in that regard. That will obviously not be in the figures this time next year. The club saying that they are litigation free for the first time in several years, in fact many years. That's obviously a positive. The fact that I think that £10.5 million figure that John Bennett spoke a lot about in the accounts last year, and then referenced again at the AGM, and is referenced in a couple of interviews, that figure, as he said, had to go away. That figure is almost away. That's definitely better. You look at other changes in the club over the year in question. Certainly managerial wise, that has an impact on that figure as well. And I know the club say, I think the wage bill came down £2.5 million, going to come down roughly another £6 million over the next financial year, given the work that's been done over the summer. So that is they are some of the positives, if you like, but they are always they're going to be offset when other areas, certainly like player trading, are not operating as they should be. Now, how many years have we heard the importance of player trading? At some point, you're going to have to start getting it right. These type of losses, these type of figures, not sustainable. The fans are quite right to say that they're not acceptable for what they are seeing on the pitch. The outlay tens of millions of pounds going on players who are returning very, very little. There's a League Cup that's sitting in the trophy room. That's not really what you're putting that amount of money into the squad for. So player trading is a big part of it, but so is appointing the right manager. So is having the right executive team. It's obviously something that we've spoken about quite extensively over recent weeks and months. So these figures come out, ironically, are perhaps planned on the eve of such a defining night in the Premiership. They will hope that a win tomorrow night, if Rangers can do that, will ease some of the tension within the support. But I think the Rangers support now are old enough and wise enough not to be fooled, if you like, by just 190 minutes. I think they will be fully aware of some of the issues at Ibrox, and I say where the club are and where they're potentially heading.
Yep. Noticed on Twitter that the football finance expert Kieran Maguire posted some of the headline figures and compared them to last year's accounts. Revenue is up 5%, wages are down 4%. Other notable mentions: pre-tax losses up 466%, player purchases up 20%, player sales down 48%, gross squad cost is up 23%, net borrowings up 139%. Go and check those figures out, folks. You can read everything John Gilligan had to say about that, and also Chief Finance Officer over on the website. The link is below this video. But you can understand why a lot of supporters are a tad concerned with the financials and where the club is going. Other news to report as well. Within those accounts, Rangers have confirmed the interim appointment of David McCallum as Zeb Jacobs' replacement at the head of the academy. A section of the accounts report reads, the academy has been managed on an interim basis by David McCallum since previous head of academy Zeb Jacobs left the club. David has extensive experience of managing and coaching at a high level within and out with our academy. As a previous academy director prior to joining Rangers and coaching at youth international level, David has led our professional development phase as well as taking on the role of interim manager of our first team for a spell in 2021. Thoughts on that, Chris? I don't think Rangers getting a permanent academy director is something that we should expect to see imminently.
Nice to see it in black and white, but that's been the case for quite some time. So people might see this as a recent appointment. That has been the case. David McCallum has been fulfilling that role for quite some time. We've spoken about the need for a head of academy. Now, when we're talking about the positions that need filled, we are always just rhyming them off of chairman, chief exec, head of academy, sporting director, headed placing Craig Robertson as director of football operations as another one that's on that list now. The academy, if you still in a financial sense, the academy can have such a huge impact on the accounts. You look at some of the deals that have been done down south, for example, in terms of homegrown players being sold on. Scott McTominay springs to mind. That he goes on the books as pure profit for Manchester United because of how he's come through the club. So there's huge potential financial benefits for Rangers from having a fully functioning, successful academy. Whether that is the case or not right now, I think everyone will have their opinion. For me, it is not it has not done enough. The academy structure has not and does not produce enough players of the right standard for either Rangers to be successful with and then sell, or to then sell on. So that's another area of the club that does require short-term assistance that needs looked at in the short term. But that's very much a long-term project. And as I've said on a couple of shows in the last few weeks, you understand why the supporters are as upset at present, because they have been through this process. They've been through the years of speculating to accumulate and Rangers racking up losses to get to a point. Once you then get to that point, i.e. winning the title or Champions League football or record sales, once you get to each of these points, the club should not be going back the way. And that's the fear that I think a number of the fans have right now. You look at the positions that need filled, you look at the squad and the side that's on the pitch at present. There's not a lot of signs of immediate encouragement for the Rangers fans there. And I think that's reflected on what you see in social media, certainly reflected in the comments that we see on the channel. And it's going to be short term fixes that have to result in longer term gains for Rangers right now. You cannot keep going through this. Now, we speak about going through this cycle of changing managers every year. You also can't keep going through the cycle of having to go back to the same investors. You can't keep going back to the well to say, we keep asking you for money, we keep spending it badly, we keep making mistakes. Can we have some more money? At some point, that process has to end. Whether that then leads to outside investment, time will tell. Interesting, it does say in the accounts that subsequent to the year end, obviously in June of this year, the directors have approved the conversion of 9 million existing debt into equity, with the remaining loan balances being converted to a new long-term facility. As part of the refinancing, the club will draw down a further 4 million in debt funding. Additionally, our investors continue to be supportive and have agreed to a funding plan to raise an additional £8.6 million of equity. So these are big numbers. These are not just papering over the cracks numbers. No. These are significant numbers from a Rangers perspective. And at some point, that type of process has to end. You cannot keep going back to the same guys, the same investor core, and say, give us some more money. Rangers have to be operating in a better way, and that's at every level. So there's a lot of concerns amongst the fans at present, and a lot of questions that they need to have answered at the AGM in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, absolutely. The manager spoke on the accounts as well. This is what you had to say, folks. It is my pleasure to be once again addressing you in our annual report as the manager of Rangers Football Club. I've now been part of one of the most iconic names in world football for just over a year, and I can't tell you how much of an honour it has been for me to be part of this club. It has been an eventful 14 months since I arrived in Scotland, and we were able to secure my first piece of silverware as a Rangers manager when we defeated Aberdeen in the League Cup final. That day will always hold special memories for me. It's one that I'm keen to repeat again and again in the months and years ahead. People I spoke to before coming to the club told me about the passion of the supporters, and I've fallen in love with Rangers, the city, and Scotland in general. We have gone through a substantial rebuild over the summer with 16 players leaving the club, some who had been part of the team for many years. There have also been a lot of changes behind the scenes and in the boardroom. We had several talks with the people stepping in, and the vision and alignment is shared by everybody. We had to build a younger squad this season and have potential and cut the wage bill, but we are determined to achieve success and make a new foundation for this club to build upon. I always admitted it would take time for the team to grow, and that has proved the case. However, I believe we are now beginning to see real signs of progression from the players, and I am confident they will continue to grow and develop going forward. As a club, we are stronger when we are all pulling in the one direction. That means everyone from the chairman, the board, the players, staff, and the supporters who make such a difference to the team. Thank you for the support you have shown myself, the staff, and players, and we are determined to repay you. So that's what the manager had to say on those accounts. Let us know what you think about that, folks. Where to start with that? I get his point. It is a rebuild. There's no one denying that. It's going to take time. I think we'd like to have seen signs, shoots of encouragement before now at this point in time. I think tomorrow, you touched on, Chris, is absolutely monumental for Philippe Clement. If he can win that, it can really act as a springboard going into the next part of the season. You spoke with Stevie on the latest episode of Your Talking Point, which is on the Rangers Review Extra channel. Folks, do go and check it out. But the manager's comments there, Chris, anything to add to those?
I think they just underline he is sticking to his stance of this is a long term issue. This is a long term project. This is going to be a long term fix. But again, as we've touched on, and I think as we've said in recent days, recent weeks, the fans need to start seeing something to actually get behind. Also, part one of his press conference was out earlier on. Part two is available in the next hour or so. And I don't think you can get away from how significant tomorrow night is for the squad, but more so for this manager. As you say, me and Stevie touched on that in the talking point. We caught up last night and recorded that show, and it really sets out just where Rangers are, what has gone right at the start of the season, not a lot, what's gone wrong at the start of the season, quite a lot, unfortunately, and it really lays out just how important this 90 minutes is for Clement. I don't think he is in danger of losing his job. I don't think even if Rangers were to lose tomorrow, you're going to see a club statement released on Thursday morning. There's nothing that's coming out of the club that suggests that is any that's close, and that's the path they'll go down. But there comes a point where he only has so much credit in the bank with the supporters, and that credit has been chipped away. He cannot deny that the way last season ended after getting themselves in a promising position to then not go on and win the title. I think he lost a bit of credit from there. And there's then Hearts, there's then Kiev, there's then Celtic, Kilmarnock, huge red flags after that one. He needs a performance tomorrow night. He needs a result tomorrow night. And yes. I think what happens at Pittodrie, it will not have like knee-jerk reactions, but it will have it will see conversations and minds really kind of focused on a range of football issues rather than financial ones.
Can't be falling 9 points behind Aberdeen in October for me. I think it would be a long way back for Rangers if that were the case. It's huge tomorrow. Big game. Joshua said this morning, probably the biggest domestic game out with the Old Firm matches in a number of years, and I tend to agree with them on that one. Aberdeen have started off like a train. Let's hope Rangers can derail that tomorrow night. Just briefly, we'll just touch on some of the big takeaways from that press conference. As you mentioned, Chris, the second part, the embargoed part, will be released at 7, but he did give us a squad update. Tom Lawrence and John Souttar will be available for that game. But the likes of Danilo, Ridvan, Cortez and Matondo still not available, but good to have those two back in amongst it.
No real surprises in terms of the players that are not available. Good news, as you say, though, that Souttar and Lawrence are going to make it. He did say time will tell how many minutes they can play. Does that probably hint that they're not going to start? We've also got our predicted teams on the site in the morning. I'm not starting any of them. Just as a spoiler alert for people, but still go and check out that piece on the site tomorrow morning anyway. He does have some big decisions to make, certainly at centre half. I know a number of people will be looking at that particular area to see how Rangers line up. So there's definitely a number of big calls, but as I said there, he needs a performance, he needs a result, because we have been around this block long enough. I feel like I'm forever cycling this particular block and going round in circles. We've been around this situation long enough. We know what the fallout is going to be if tomorrow night does not go well for him. Yeah,
let's hope Rangers can do the business. Of course, you'll be heading up there for us tomorrow, Chris. I'm off tomorrow, so you won't have me, but I will be tuning in nonetheless. Right, that'll do us there. Big thanks to Chris and to you all for tuning in to this special evening briefing. We will be back tomorrow. I won't, but I think Joshua will be on with your good self, I think, Chris, or he'll be on. Yeah, the gruesome twosome will be on tomorrow, so hopefully you can join them for that. And enjoy the rest of your Tuesday evening, folks. Bye for now.